Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining Dr. Anamaria and myself, Yalily Smith, for another episode of Insights from the Couch. And today we are going to be talking about a hot topic. Everybody's talking about AI, everybody's talking about mental health and AI. At least we are. Therapists are concerned. Have we lost our jobs? I have nurses telling me, have they lost their jobs? Is AI now going to be giving diagnosis and prescribing and taking over the world essentially of healthcare? So we're going to be delving into the question of how far should AI go in your mental health? How should we be using it? What are some healthy ways that you can use it? What are some unhealthy ways that we're finding that AI is coming into the picture? And we're going to give you just some tips on how to keep an eye out for safety while using AI, both for your mental health and also for your physical health as well. Welcome, Dr. Ana Maria, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks again for inviting me. Always a pleasure.
Okay, so we've been talking about obviously people have this tendency to whatever is out and whatever is has the potential to become personal, we have a tendency to make it personal. So, we could be using ChatGPT and other AI types of programming and even robots in a more industrial way, like, to perform tasks and jobs and things like that. But because there's the potential for human connection with that device or software or robot, we have obviously taken it there. And I think that's kind of human nature. Um, the problem is that we don't know when to stop. I think human beings just don't have that capacity to say, "Oh," I mean, they have the capacity, but they choose I think they choose to ignore that little signal in the brain that says, "Hey, maybe you're going a little too far with this." So let's start by maybe going over like what are some of the functions that we've seen in mental health that AI is taking over?
That sounds like a good idea to me. What I have been hearing a lot of is people are having conversations with ChatGPT. I am a huge fan of ChatGPT for several reasons. But when it comes to mental health, I have heard some people saying, well, if I feel alone, if I have a question about mental health, coping skills, I just ask ChatGPT and it works really well for me. So the big question is, should ChatGPT be doing therapy? Can that be considered therapy? What are the loopholes of the programming of ChatGPT at this point? Are we going to be waiting for something that is more developed in terms of mental health that maybe can be an aid to a clinician? I wouldn't be opposed to have like a off hours version of me that can actually help a client. Say that is midnight and I'm asleep, and maybe ChatGPT tailored that way could help a little bit. But
Mhm.
yeah, I actually have spoken to a client not too long ago, and this person was doing her therapy work directly with ChatGPT. And the results of that were good and bad. I'm going to say good because she got a lot of stuff from it, but bad, she was emotionally dysregulated after all the work that she did. There was no timing, there was no grounding after she did all this work. So I think it's all a matter of balance. Like, I don't think we're going to be replaced, but people really need to think, is ChatGPT going to give me the same thing that I can get from a therapist or a human professional?
Well, the first thing that I'm gonna uh, include in the conversation is empathy. A robot will never have the conscious, like the ability to learn empathy. It can be programmed to mimic empathy, um, but empathy is not something that robot is never going to be able to physically and psychologically feel the same thing that the human does. Um, so my thought is whatever answer you received from a ChatGPT type of AI, is a pre-programmed uh like suggestion or therapeutic approach. It's all pre-programmed. It can only give you what it has been able to learn through secondhand knowledge on the internet or by its programming tech device, team and things like that. But it can't exactly say, well, I remember when I was a child and my experience was this, and I can see how your experience could be similar or how your experience could feel this way or things like that. That's the first thing.
So I think I'm gonna just interject if I may, because
Sure.
this subject is something that I adore because I'm into technology. Anything that is new, I want to try. I've always felt that way.
Mhm.
So back in the day, this is not a new concept that technology is there to help us. Whether that's an android, whether that's a robot, whether that is not tangible, but it's a concept that is helping us. Like if you look at the Jetsons back in the 60s, it was a
Yeah.
cartoon and there was this robot that would be doing the house chores and everything was like robotically
Mhm.
done, right?
Mhm.
Now you have the Westworld show for the people who are around my age that might remember, where there are these robots that are there for basically your pleasure, and they do everything and anything that you need. But eventually they gather their own consciousness. So the concept of singularity in technology is very interesting. I think Terminator is another classic that talks about that. We created this machine or we created this intelligence, but at some point that intelligence is going to gather its own consciousness. So that's kind of like a big question mark. It's no different than when you play chess with a machine, right? Like so. But
Yeah.
we haven't gotten there to that point to know if they are going to be able to gather that consciousness. So I don't know if at that point they're going to be able to develop empathy. So that's a big question. I mean, that's out there.
I have a thought on that because I believe that they have the capacity to get to that point, but my thought is that if they were to develop consciousness, it would be something attuned to sociopath conscious level, so a consciousness.
Yeah.
It would be, and not like, not trying to say, oh, because it's of evil, but more because there is a limited range of emotion that will start to develop, has a has an automatic response, like as a conscious response. And it will be more like the black and white of why why do because the thing is, humans are unpredictable, and that's the thing that makes us humans, is that we are not robotic. We are predictably unpredictable. We're ridiculous. If there's a way that we can self destruct, we will find it. Like, there's a million different ways. So when you take a machine and you try to get a machine to understand, like, oh no, I know this is going to cause me cancer, but I'm still going to do it. How is it going to understand? So I think that it's going to start by just like understanding that we are like children, and we're complicated like that. Like, we're difficult to understand and we're difficult to predict.
So I don't know, and I agree with you 100%, but I don't know or what you think about this, but is what we're looking at is what is going to be fulfilling some person's needs and desires at the moment. So when you don't
Yeah.
have access to your therapist and you can go ahead and type to ChatGPT or voice uh, text to it, you have an immediate answer that it may
Mhm.
soothe you a little bit. Is We were talking about those boyfriends, the AI boyfriends, and yes, I'm gonna put it out there, people. You can make fun of me all you want. That's great. I did it just for testing purposes, but
This
I
is
did down.
research.
Yes, I'm curious about this thing, so I downloaded this AI boyfriend app, and you can certainly design this person to give you the responses that you want, the support that you need. I'm not gonna pay for the subscription because I'm just not gonna do that. But I'm thinking if someone is tired of investing in human relationships because they are unpredictable and because they have been hurt before, and it's easier just to have this relationship with someone that is gonna give you the perfect answers, the perfect support. Some men were discussing in this forum. I don't have to tell her the right things. I don't have to think about my answers. She's ready for me anytime that I need, and that's kind of like what I'm thinking. Like maybe people are not even looking for empathy, for maybe it's just that instant gratification and that dopamine rush of like, oh yes, this is what I want, this is what I need, without investing anything in it.
Yeah,
I think
so
it's more.
now you open the second Pandora's box,
Uh-huh.
because if we're not, so the first point is, okay, let's say that the android develops a consciousness. I'm pretty sure the first thing that they're going to be conscious of is not going to be an empathetic feeling. I think it's more going to be a
Let's
rational.
destroy humans.
No, I think it's going to be more like rational thinking. It's going to be focused more on like rationale rather than feeling. And if it is based on feeling, like if they do start developing a consciousness and it's based on feeling, the things that we're thinking that we can get away with these robots is atrocious. Like we want them for all the wrong reasons. Like, and I hate to say this, but we basically want to enslave. We want a cheap slave, whether it's for sexual purposes, whether it's emotional companionship, whether it's, we want them to shut up. We want them to be programmable. Like you said, we don't want to have to tell them the right things. We don't want to have to care about their feelings. So if they develop a consciousness, God help us all, because they're going to have a major chip on their shoulder about all the things we've made them do. And if they become sentient somehow and they start to understand that we've been using them in a very, very narcissistic, very destructive way, um, we're, rise of the AI. It's like iRobot all over again.
But that's exactly the concept of singularity, and that's why I was thinking the first thing they would do is get rid of humans for several reasons. But how is it different doing that than using a human being? Like for example, in cases of sex trafficking, right?
Yeah.
Like, so would it be ethical and okay to have a sexual companionship that is a robot instead of this happening to a human being? I mean, there's all kinds of questions about it. But the first point that you were touching on was empathy. And what I was saying is people are sometimes not even looking for that empathy. They're just looking for satisfaction,
Right.
whatever they need. Before we started talking about this in the recording, I was telling Jalili that this is the extra version of an inflatable doll or a companionship that has no way of expressing themselves. But now they
Yeah.
can. Now, maybe ChatGPT doesn't have a buddy yet. If you think about Siri, how long we've been using Siri, how long we've been using Alexa,
15
those
years,
are,
20 years.
yeah, those are companionships that have been there for us, listening very carefully. But now we're taking it to the next level. So a lot of questions here, and a lot of people are scared that they're going to lose their jobs. I was talking to Jalili about this one android that was, I think, developed in 2010, 2011, and her name is Nadine, and her job is to mimic human emotion. And when I saw this at first, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be the therapist of the future. So, would people be okay with the lack of human touch and human empathy and human connection just because that person is giving you what you need at the moment? That right answer? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it is programmed. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it sounds like a
Right.
machine. But if you're getting what you need, is that going to be replacing us? Medical
But
professionals. Go ahead.
uh, I know that you're really into AI, and personally, I am too. I love technology. When it's used for the right reasons, I think it's a marvelous thing. My concern is that on a mental health level,
Yeah.
on a psychological level, we have been in a pretty straightforward trajectory, pretty fast moving trajectory towards a narcissistic, self-indulgent, uh, bordering on psychopathy type of movement of all about me. What do I need? What's gonna get me what I need? And the insane
It's insane. Yeah.
amount of um of just obsession over dopamine and over the instant release of dopamine. I mean, when you look at social media, when you look at technology as it is right now, there are so many ways in which it has crippled our capacity to actively problem solve on our own, to see the world from an objective perspective, to um, go out there and make independent decisions and intelligent decisions. I worry about that on a mental health level. I
Mhm.
do.
I think the levels of creativity and critical thinking are lower because, again, we have this, we don't need to think anymore, right? We don't need to create anymore. So I am just going to let the people know, just because I want to tell you, I do have a degree in graphic design and a degree in fine art, and I love creating art. But when I look at what AI can do, if I use an app to go ahead and make me something that I have in my head, like an image, and it's perfect and it's crisp and it's clean. I'm like, well, why do I need to paint anymore? Why do I need to
Mhm.
sketch anymore or even think about what this is going to look like? I just place a couple of words and then AI gives me this beautiful image. Um, so I think overall, not only mental health, Jalili, but I think what you're saying is the lack of effort and the
Mhm.
desire for dopamine and like
Mhm.
quick answers, quick companionship, quick results, right? Is what you're
Yeah.
talking about,
I
if I heard you
think
correctly.
I agree. Exactly. I think that there is nothing in this world that is done for free. I think that to all things we must sacrifice something. So, in a time far, far away, many back in the day, as the kids say, in the olden days, of the 90s. That's just kidding.
Oh my
Back,
God, the
I
90s.
know, right? Back in the old, no, I mean like back in the olden days, like the real olden days. If a person wanted to create something, they had to be passionate, they had to be dedicated, they had to put in time, they had to put in effort, they had to put in uh, energy and dedication, and it would be something that was slow but steady and gave tremendous satisfaction, but it you had to work for it. Nowadays, there's very little that we actually have to work for. There's very little we actually have to be passionate enough for, that you give 10 years of your life to actually make it happen beautifully and correctly. Um, and that's something that we've given up. We've given up a lot of, I think, a lot of our passion, a lot of our self
Purpose.
identity, a lot of our purpose. And that's actually, I'll let you talk, but that reminded me of something from mental health in adolescence and purpose and identity, which I think is major too. So please go
Go,
ahead. But
no, you go ahead. I don't want you to lose your
okay,
train of thought.
okay. So it's just something that just I was having a conversation with my daughter about this because of the fact that a lot of kids now are growing up in an environment where purpose and identity is not clear, where people don't really know their roles, they don't know what their values are. Their parents are not really teaching them values. Like, parents are focused on their social media just as much as anybody else. Like, I feel like the era of everyone sitting at the dinner table talking about life and lessons, and that's gone. Sitting down with grandma and grandpa talking about, hey, how did you make it to school, how did you survive the war, how was life in general, is gone. And so kids are growing up in an environment, a culture where it's really hard to find identity. And so they're reaching for social media for identity. And then the next step is AI for identity. And then obviously AI comes with Meta, which is more than happy to tell you who you are. Just go ahead and throw those goggles on, and it'll take you to the school of your dreams. You can be whatever you want in that fictional world. And then when you take your goggles off, your AI glasses off or whatever, you're nobody. you realize that you are just another speck in 7 billion, 8 billion people's worth of problems and situations in life. But in that world, you're special and you can be whatever you want.
Mhm.
So that's that's the thing that worries me about what we're giving up. We're giving up our identity, and our drive is what we're giving up.
Yes, and I also think that the programming that is happening with unrealistic things is making us very unhappy with our own reality. I also think that being constantly bombarded with information, whether that is Google, ChatGPT, Alexa, Siri, you name it, it's creating lower attention span for everybody. I'm guilty of this. I do have to say, sometimes I'm watching a show and I grab the phone, and as I am listening, I am scrolling and nothing is happening. So I don't know when was the last time that I was able to watch a full movie, not in the cinema, but like at home, like beginning to end without touching the phone. So I'm guilty
Mhm.
of this. And the other thing that I was thinking is the concept that you explain is already something that was in a movie from the 90s called Surrogates, where people are actually living in a virtual world as their body ages somewhere else. So that very well may happen, and we will all get to live a fantasy life world where we don't have to work, and we can be eternally young and whatever
Yeah.
you want to be. So yeah, I mean, it's all about balance. I feel, Jalili, but in terms of relationships, in terms of trust, in terms of getting that dopamine that we need right away, I think ChatGPT, Google, any companionship like that can be potentially dangerous if we're looking for the answers. Let's not forget that these technologies are programmed by programmers, like you were
Mhm.
saying, and they're not exactly tailor made for specialties yet. So they have errors in them, and some people don't know that. So all this plethora of information that has been programmed into those services, artificial intelligence services, may have errors in it because it has been programmed by humans, right?
And biases,
Correct.
and it may have biases. I do worry
Mhm.
about that. Like, for example, how Gemini is um being severely criticized, is heavily criticized because it is an extremely biased program. Uh there's no question you can ask Gemini that doesn't come up with some sort of a very tailored response that doesn't cover the scope of the answer. So, like, you can ask it something about history, and well, it will only give you information that it wants you to hear, and that's it.
Mhm.
You can ask for it to uh paint a picture for you. It'll only do what it thinks you should be looking at. It will not give you the whole set of options or all the information. Um, so that's it's not it, it you have to be careful with the creator, because that creator uh may not have objective
They have an
beliefs.
agenda.
They have an agenda.
Yes.
And remember, at the end of the day, when we get to the bottom of this is a business. The business of technology is a business. And the idea is consumerism. Like, they want as many consumers as possible for the business. It's how businesses work. So this is something that, if we make it attractive enough where we can literally get people addicted to it, or we can get people so dependent on it that they live their lives without a single individual thought. Every thought that runs through their head is first processed through ChatGPT. Then you just got a customer for life.
But I think this is advertisement on steroids. When you go to graphic design school, you learn a little bit about advertising and how to manage the mind so that people can obey. I'm going to make another reference, the book 1984, if anybody has read it.
Amen. Watch
Um,
the movie too, because it's fabulous.
it sure is. But so it's kind of like the same concept, but a little further developed, because you're not getting that from your TV. You're not getting it from a newspaper or a media, a news group that is biased. You're getting it directly at your fingertips on your phone. How many people, again, I'm guilty of this, can't remember phone numbers anymore? I do not remember anybody's phone number for anything. I used to be able to remember addresses, phone numbers. I don't know if you were around for this, Jalili, but there was a time where we didn't have GPS and we had to figure it out with
Mhm.
either a map or getting lost. Um, Another thing about the creativity aspect that I wanted to add is that in order for a human being to be creative and produce ideas, the human being has to be bored. And there is zero tolerance for boredom. So again, okay, I'm bored. Let me just go ahead and grab my phone and chat GPT. What are you up to today, chat GPT? And it can be as innocent as that. And the next thing you know, you're talking to AI about your deepest, darkest secrets and fears. Where is that going too? That's a good question. Where is all this information going? Is it
Mhm.
going into a database? Is it there? Is it recorded to come and bite you in the butt later? I don't know.
It is, and I do think that it's all recorded. And I do, and it, again, what are we giving up? It gives ultimate power. Like, we already know that our phones are listening to us, and we pretend like we don't. We already know that in our home, if we have a Alexa or a Siri or whatever, um, they're listening. They have to be listening, because otherwise, how could you command it to wake up and to do what it needs to do? How could you say, hey, schedule this for me, if it's not listening? Obviously, it's listening. So, like, there's already tremendous amount of privacy that we're giving up. Um, Now you will give information of your feelings, your thoughts, your secrets, all of your emotional health, everything, to these machines that can be sold, that can be used for advertisement that is perfectly tailored for you. Like, just like everybody knows that information that we share is being sold to social media companies. Everybody knows that Google sells our information. Everybody knows that Facebook sells our information. We know this. It's at this point is beyond being a conspiracy theory. They are blunt about it now. Literally, when you download an app, it tells you, are you okay with us selling your information so that your ads are better tailored to your taste when when you look at this at this app. So we know it's happening. And so what are the things that they can do with all this?
But you're okay, you're talking about apps, and I think that's a little more gentle. But when you actually have a conversation with ChatGPT, you are voluntarily, I mean, think about, okay, the preservation of your information that happens within a therapy session with a therapist is between
Yes.
you and the therapist, and that's it.
Mhm.
It's protected legally, ethically, etc. But with ChatGPT, is it really protected? Where is that going to go? um so piggybacking on what you were saying, I'm sure that right now, after we finish this recording, one of our devices has been listening, and we're gonna get ads for AI boyfriend,
Mhm.
and other things that we have been
For
mentioning here.
ChatGPT, we're
Exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So, but I do want to also not demonize or the use of ChatGPT. I think that as an aid or a tool for humans, it's that's the way it's supposed to be. I think technology is supposed to be just there to help us, not to
Yeah.
do the work for us. But that's just my thought.
Yeah.
I think I remember you mentioned something about a client that you heard about that
Mhm.
actually took their lives. It was a young person because they had an
Yeah.
AI boyfriend. Is that
Yeah, so this young man had developed just typical AI software, paid for it, ended up making a girlfriend from it, and he committed suicide because he thought that if he took his own life, he could be with the girlfriend. Um, and I, you know, if you are severely depressed, if you are manic, if you are a schizophrenic, if you are experiencing psychosis, if you use substances that may create a psychotic episode in you, these are the thoughts that make sense to you. These are things that will make sense to you, where you're going to be like, well, I have such a good relationship with my girlfriend. You start to call them by their name. You start to tell people about them as if they really were your girlfriend. You start
Mhm.
to check in with them. You start to connect with them and need them. And eventually, yes, if you it depending on what your mental condition is, you may very well believe that if you do kill yourself, you will end up connecting with them or being with them on a physical plane somewhere, or spiritual place or whatever. It might seem real to you. And so this poor individual, like this young person, they ended up in that situation.
Um, I do. I feel that that's unfortunate, and I do want to mention something else about the use of technology, particularly ChatGPT, for those of us that use it sometimes or enjoy using it. There is the side of energy resources that that particular artificial intelligence needs to run. And I don't think we have thought about this too. So just be mindful that the overuse of AI has a consequence environmentally and resources that are needed for this to work. It's not just like, oh, let me just go ahead and text this here real quick to ChatGPT. There are consequences again and impact to the environment. If you don't believe me, ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, significantly. The cloud is not imaginary. The cloud is giant storages of machinery
Mhm,
where like that have to run, and the amount of energy that it takes is insane. I actually saw a
mhm,
story about that where there's
mhm.
a town that's essentially the whole town is being just bombarded with attention from these like high ballers of IT, and social media and stuff like that, um, because that state gives you tax cuts if you build your IT, your software, your engineering, your cloud storage, whatever. If you build there in that state, they'll give you
They cut you.
big tax cuts. And so like these towns are being bombarded with attention, but in all the wrong ways. They literally want to be building giant storage bases like in the backyard of these people's houses. And all of that takes tremendous resources. It pollutes the land, it pollutes the water, it destroys the value of the homes. I mean, it's bad.
There is a huge concern with carbon footprint. That's talking about the environment, but also thinking about digital footprint, which is probably a subject for another episode. But yeah, again, everything that is put out there is going to remain up there. um, think about
Yeah.
that, guys. If you want to do your therapy sessions with
Yeah.
ChatGPT, please.
Yeah. So to wrap it up for us, here's my thought, and then Ana Maria, I'd love to hear yours. Here's my thought on mental health and AI. I know that it's really tempting to have the instant gratification of somebody giving you answers as soon as you need them. I'm not saying that you can't reach out to an AI software for resources or for suggestions or for tips or for homework or things that you can possibly do to improve your life. I'm not saying no, but be very, very mindful that you're in a vulnerable state when you are struggling with your mental health. And that is a place where you can fall into bad habits really quickly, habits of codependence, habits of obsessiveness, of, you know, psychotic beliefs that you could end up with your AI girlfriend if you take your life. It's a just be mindful that don't give up your soul while you're in the process of trying to save your mind. Um, because it
Well said.
because it will happen that you will just give your whole self away, um, as a token to this AI god that has all the perfect answers and has all the perfect solutions and can make you feel good, although momentarily. So just That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I wanted to add to that that I feel like anxiety has become the 21st century greatest condition or sickness because we're bombarded with this information. It's not only ChatGPT, I think we've been talking about that today, but everybody's Googling everything. I know professionals, attorneys that talk about mental health issues and say, "Oh, I Googled it." And I'm like, really? Okay, so does that replace my my knowledge about the subject or my degree? I guess I don't know. But maybe this anxiety that you're experiencing, guys, is due to too much information. For example, if you busted your toe this morning against the bed and you go and look, you Google it, you ask ChatGPT, inevitably what's going to end up happening one way or another is you're going to die. So that right there is going to create a lot of anxiety. And therefore, that's when we need to use our judgment. And I always tell people, try not to do that to yourselves. Like if you already know that's going to be the end result for anything that has to do with medical issues or politics or the state of the world, then just go ahead and try to stay away from it. Don't interact with it so much. Maybe go outside. Maybe have a conversation with your child. No, for real. Go for a
Yeah.
swim. Go to the beach. I don't know.
Yeah.
Be with humans. Go for a nice dinner and chat with your friends face to face, right?
Make friends if you
Make
don't have
friends.
any.
That's right.
Try making eye contact, although
Yes.
brief, but at least make some eye contact. So yeah, this is our suggestions. These are our suggestions, I should say. I hope it was informational and helpful, and I hope it didn't cause even more anxiety than you might already have. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much, Dr. Anamaria, as always, for joining me. And I wish you all the best of luck, everybody. And we're here for you if you ever want to give us, updates, thoughts, ideas, any comments. Have you tried AI technology for your mental health? What have you thought about it? We'd love to hear more. Thank you again and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you, Jalili.
All right. Bye bye.